The moment that decides how fast your body breaks down isn't something dramatic. It's not a diagnosis. It's not a fall. It's not a scary number on a lab report. It happens in the first 90 seconds after you open your eyes. If you're over 60, what you do in those 90 seconds, every single morning, is quietly working either for you or against you. And for most people watching this right now, it's working against you. Not because you're lazy, not because you're doing something obviously wrong, because you're doing something that looks completely normal, something almost every doctor's waiting room full of people over 60 does without thinking twice. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. It doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like just getting up. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what this mistake is, why it accelerates the very things you're most afraid of. The dizziness, the stiffness, the brain fog, the slow decline people call just getting old, and precisely what to do instead, starting tomorrow morning. Stay with me, because the third mistake we cover is the one almost nobody talks about, and it may be the one doing the most damage to you right now. Doctors who specialize in aging, geriatricians, cardiologists, sleep physicians, have quietly converged on the same observation over the last 2 decades. The transition from sleep to waking is one of the most physiologically demanding events your body goes through every single day. Blood pressure shifts, hormones surge, blood sugar moves. Your nervous system flips from rest mode to go mode. For a body in its 30s or 40s, this transition is smooth. The systems that manage it, the blood vessels that constrict to keep pressure stable, the adrenal response that wakes you up gradually, the joints that lubricate as you move, are fast, elastic, forgiving. After 60, none of that is automatic anymore. The systems are slower to respond, less elastic, less forgiving of shortcuts. And that's the part almost nobody explains to you. Your morning routine either respects that slower, more fragile transition, or it forces your body through it anyway, the same way you always have, and lets the damage quietly accumulate. Most people assume the danger of aging happens somewhere out there, a bad meal, a missed pill, a fall on the stairs. So they focus all their attention on the big, visible things. But here's what specialists in aging physiology keep finding. The single most damaging pattern isn't a big event. It's a rushed transition from sleep to activity, repeated silently every single morning for years. We're going to break this mistake into the 5 ways it actually shows up in a normal morning. Almost everyone over 60 makes at least 2 of these without realizing it. Some of you are about to recognize all 5. Mistake Hazon, standing up too fast. You wake up, your bladder is full, or the alarm just went off, and you swing your legs out and stand the same way you've stood up your entire adult life. Here's the myth that this is harmless because you've always done it this way. Here's the mechanism. When you lie down all night, blood pools in your legs and torso. Standing suddenly requires your blood vessels to constrict quickly and your heart rate to adjust, pushing blood back up to your brain against gravity. In a younger body, this reflex, doctors call it the barrow reflex, fires almost instantly. After 60, that reflex slows down. There's a real lag between the moment you stand and the moment your blood pressure catches up. Think of it like an old elevator versus a new one. A new elevator adjusts its speed the instant you press the button. An old one lurches, there's a delay before it responds. Your circulatory system after 60 is that old elevator. The delay is where the danger lives. That delay has a name, orthostatic hypotension, and research in geriatric medicine has consistently linked it to the lightheadedness, the head rush, and the loss of balance moments that many older adults describe happening right after they get out of bed. It's also considered one of the more overlooked contributors to falls in that first hour of the day. What to do instead? When you wake, don't stand immediately. Sit on the edge of the bed for a full 60 seconds. Move your ankles in circles, flex your feet, gently clench, and release your calf muscles 10 times. This pumps blood back toward your heart and gives your circulatory system time to catch up before you ask it to fight gravity. Only then, stand slowly, holding onto something solid for the first few seconds. Mistake #2, reaching for caffeine before water. The moment your feet hit the floor, many people head straight for the coffee pot. It feels like the most natural reward in the world after a night's sleep. Here's the myth, that coffee first thing wakes up your body in a healthy way. Here's the mechanism. You lose water overnight just through breathing and normal bodily processes. You wake up mildly dehydrated every single day, whether you feel thirsty or not. Caffeine is a mild diuretic. It encourages your kidneys to release more fluid. So the very first thing many older adults do is add a dehydrating substance on top of a body that's already running low on fluid, right at the moment your blood pressure and circulation are least able to compensate for it. Think of your bloodstream like a river. When water levels are low, the current struggles to reach the far banks in your body's case. That means your brain, your joints, your extremities. Coffee, taken on an empty, dehydrated system, is like diverting even more water out of that already shallow river before it's had a chance to refill. What to do instead? Keep a glass of water on your nightstand or within arm's reach. Drink it before your coffee, ideally after your 60-second seated transition from mistake-hasone. This single swap rehydrates your system first and lets caffeine work with a properly hydrated body instead of against a depleted one. Mistake #3, checking the phone or the news. Immediately, this is the one almost nobody talks about, and it may be doing more damage than the first two combined. The myth that catching up on messages, news, or the family group chat first thing is just staying informed and harmless. Here's the mechanism. Your cortisol, your primary stress hormone, naturally spikes in the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking. It's called the cortisol awakening response, and it's supposed to be a clean, gentle rise that helps you feel alert. But if the first input your brain receives is a stressful headline, an alarming text, or an argument in a group chat, you stack an artificial stress spike directly on top of that natural one. Picture your nervous system like a pot of water already simmering near the edge. The natural cortisol rise brings it right up to a gentle boil that's supposed to happen. But an emotionally charged headline or message is like turning the burner to high right at that moment. The pot doesn't just simmer anymore, it boils over. And for a body over 60 where chronic stress is already linked to higher blood pressure, worse sleep, and faster inflammatory aging, that boil over happens more easily and takes longer to settle down. What to do instead? Give yourself a genuine buffer, even just 15 to 20 minutes before opening your phone. Use that window for the seated transition, the water, maybe light stretching. Let your cortisol curve rise and settle on its own schedule before you hand your nervous system anything else to react to. If this is already hitting home, if you're realizing you've been doing 1, 2, maybe all 3 of these without ever knowing it, take 10 seconds right now and subscribe. We break down exactly this kind of overlooked pattern every single week, the kind of thing your doctor doesn't have time to explain in a 15-minute visit. And don't leave yet, because mistake #4 is the one that quietly stiffens your joints for the entire rest of the day, and the fix takes less than 90 seconds. Mistake #4, getting straight to doing without moving first. You get up, you get dressed, you go straight into the day's tasks, dishes, medication, getting the grandkids' breakfast ready, whatever it is. No stretching, no movement, straight from bed to busy. The myth that stretching is extra, something for athletes or younger people, not a real necessity for a normal morning. Here's the mechanism. Overnight, the fluid inside your joints, synovial fluid, settles and thickens slightly from hours of stillness. Your muscles shorten a little. Your spine actually compresses slightly overnight and needs gentle movement to redistribute pressure across the discs. Without movement, you carry that stiffness, that thickened, compressed, under-lubricated state into the first hour of activity, which is exactly when you're most likely to reach, twist, or bend awkwardly. It's like trying to drive a car in winter without letting the engine warm up. Everything technically works, but it works under more strain, with more friction, and with a higher chance of something catching wrong. A few minutes of idling, or in your body's case, a few minutes of gentle movement, lets everything reach proper working condition before you put real demand on it. What to do instead? Before you do anything task-oriented, spend 2 to 3 minutes on slow, gentle movement shoulder rolls, ankle circles, a gentle seated spinal twist, reaching your arms overhead. This isn't exercise, it's relubrication. It tells your joints and muscles the day has started before you ask them to perform. Mistake #5, eating a high-sugar breakfast first. Toast with jam, a pastry, sweetened cereal, coffee with sugar on an empty stomach. For many people over 60, this has been breakfast for decades, and it feels harmless, even comforting. The myth that a light, sugary breakfast is gentler on an older digestive system than something heavier. Here's the mechanism. After a night without food, your blood sugar is already at its lowest point of the day. Hitting it with a fast-absorbing sugary meal causes a sharp spike, and after 60, insulin response tends to be slower and less efficient than it was decades earlier. That combination often produces a steeper spike followed by a harder crash a couple of hours later. The fatigue, the shakiness, the sudden hunger that hits mid-morning. Research connecting blood sugar volatility to long-term vascular and cognitive health has made this pattern one that specialists increasingly flag for older adults specifically, since blood vessels already under age-related strain handle these swings less gracefully than younger ones do. Think of your blood sugar like the throttle on an old engine. Slamming it wide open from a cold start doesn't get you moving faster, it just floods the system and stalls it out. A gradual, steady application of fuel gets you further, smoother, and with far less wear. What to do instead? Anchor your first meal with protein and fiber eggs, plain yogurt with nuts, oatmeal with a source of protein alongside it, rather than something that hits your bloodstream as pure sugar. This flattens the spike, steadies your energy for the whole morning, and removes one more source of strain from a cardiovascular system that's already managing more than it used to. Here is what almost nobody realizes. These 5 mistakes don't just add up, they compound each other. Standing too fast strains a circulatory system that's already dehydrated. Dehydration makes the cortisol spike from stress hit harder. Stiff, unmoved joints combined with a blood sugar crash an hour later is a well-documented recipe for the kind of mid-morning fatigue and unsteadiness that so many people over 60 simply accept as normal aging. It isn't. It's 5 small decisions stacked together every single morning for years. Fix even 2 or 3 of these in order. And you're not just removing one stressor, you're removing an entire chain reaction before it has the chance to start. Take the case of Mrs. Lon, 68, a retired school teacher. For years, her mornings looked exactly like what we just described. Up fast, coffee first, phone immediately, straight into chores, sweet bread for breakfast. She described feeling foggy and stiff every morning until nearly 10 a.m. and had 2 dizzy spells getting out of bed that she'd never mentioned to anyone, assuming it was just her age. After restructuring her first hour, the seated transition, water before coffee, a genuine phone-free window, gentle movement, and a protein-based breakfast, she reported within a few weeks that the morning dizziness had stopped entirely, her stiffness eased noticeably faster, and the mid-morning energy crash she'd lived with for years simply wasn't there anymore. Nothing about her medications changed. Nothing about her diagnosis changed. What changed was the sequence of her first 60 minutes. Her case isn't unique. It's simply what happens when you stop forcing an aging body through a young body's routine. None of what we covered today requires a prescription, a specialist referral, or spending a single dollar. It requires reordering 90 seconds into something closer to what your body over 60 actually needs instead of what it used to be able to tolerate without complaint. Tomorrow morning, try just one of these 5 changes. Not all 5. 1. See how you feel by 10 a.m. Then come back and tell us in the comments which mistake you didn't know you were making. A note on medical guidance. This video is for general educational purposes and reflects widely discussed patterns in geriatric and cardiovascular health. It is not a substitute for personalized medical advice. If you experience dizziness, fainting, or unexplained instability when standing, please discuss it with your doctor. Some causes require direct evaluation and cannot be safely assessed from a video. If this helped you, share it with someone over 60 who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more of the small, overlooked patterns that quietly shape how well we age.